All right, I will say good morning, good morning, good tevach. Hopefully everybody had a beautiful, wonderful, uplifting Shabbos, and let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning. Sure to thank our TALMUD TORAH sponsors for the month of Adar, Stephen Teri Czinn, for dedicating all the Shumer Drushos this month in memory of Dr. Harry Kahn, Tzvi Hirsh, ben Yosef HaKohen. To thank Paul and Kathy Pollack for dedicating all the Shumer Drushos this month in memory of Paul's grandparents, Zechariah ben Zechariah and Dinah bas Pesach. To thank our Week of Learning sponsors, Avi and Vivianne Zysman, in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Avi's father, Michael Zysman, Michal ben Yechiel, Zichron Livracha. We hope that the merit of our TALMUD TORAH, all of the Neshamos will have an aliyah, and the families ein lechama. So with that, let us begin. We have an incredible daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Mem Ches 48. But let's actually pick up on Mem Zayin on the base 47b, and let's pick up 2, 4, 6, 8 lines up from the bottom, which is really where the sugya that we're going to be focusing on today starts. And the Gemara says, "Menahanimili." So we'll say, remember again. Excuse me. The topic at hand is the ability for both a Nazir as well as a Kohen Hedyot, Kohen Gadol, to become Tamei for a Meis Mitzvah. Definition of a Meis Mitzvah: someone who passes away and has no one else to tend to their burial needs. Our Mishnah was discussing a more dramatic case where there is a choice between who is going to become Tamei. Is it going to be Kohen Gadol, or is it going to be the Nazir? So that's how we got into this discussion. Now the Gemara kind of backs up a little bit and says, 1 second, from where do we know this concept that there is the ability for both the Nazir and the Kohen to become Tamei for a Meis Mitzvah? So here we go. Says the Gemara, the Tan Rabbanon, Pasuk says, Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo. So I will say this pasuk is by the Kohen Gadol. The pasuk says, literally again, Al kol nafshos meis. For any dead person, he may not come into contact. What is the pasuk talking about? So if we're talking about unrelated individuals, right? So rechokim means people who are unrelated to the Kohen Gadol. So kavachomer, then it will say it's a kavachomer, it's the kavachomer. Uma Kohen Hedyot, Shumatami lekrovim, Einu Matami lerechokim, a regular Kohen who has the license, because the Torah spells out the license for the Kohen Hedyot, to become Tamei for immediate relatives, mother, brother, son, daughter, sister, spouse, Kohen Gadol, Sheino Matami, yet again, I'm sorry. So Kohen Hedyot, who has the ability to be Matami for Krovim, doesn't have the ability to be Matami for Rechokim. Kohen Gadol Sheino Matami lekrovim, Eino din Sheino Matami lerechokim. We'll say Kohen Gadol doesn't even have a license to become Tamei for his immediate relatives. So if a Kohen Gadol who cannot become Tamei for immediate relatives certainly cannot become Tamei for non-relatives, for Rechokim, so that's what I will say when the pasuk says Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo. So the Torah is telling me that a Kohen Gadol cannot become Tamei. Who is it talking about? Ella b'krov makasa medaber. Rather, I will say the pasuk must be talking about what? Even for his own relatives. So when the pasuk says "Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo," it's literally talking about his relatives. I will say, just so you appreciate the pasuk in its totality, the pasuk is "Va'al kol nafshos meis lo yavo." It's right, so the Kohen Gadol shall not become Tamei for anyone. Then it says "La'aviv u'li'imo lo yitama." For his father and his mother, he should not become Tamei. So I will say, so now you understand about the predicament we're going to be in. Why? Because it seems now the pasuk is going to be redundant. Because if we're darshaning, Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo means that a Kohen Gadol cannot become Tamei even for his relatives, then we have a problem. What's our problem? What's the meaning of the second phrase? Li'imo lo aviv u'li'imo lo yitama. So now we're going to go through this. So the Gemara says, Ela b'krom b'gaz medaber. I u'lo aviv hu de'ena metamei. Mitzvah. Shabbos is incredible. So the Gemara says, what do you do with the word la'aviv? La'aviv means comes to reinforce this point. La'aviv is tafka for his father, that he cannot become tamei, but ultimately, again, who can he become tamei for? A meis mitzvah. So it says here the drasha. So the first part, Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo, is teaching me that a Kohen Gadol cannot become tamei for anyone, even his own immediate relatives. La'aviv. Dafka, it's for his relatives that he can't become Tamei for, but he can become Tamei for a Meis Mitzvah. Top of Memchas, uli imo. What do I do with the word uli imo? Right? What do I do with that? 48a. First word li imo. So say this is incredible. L'gzeir shava l'chid Rebbe. Li imo ultimately again comes to teach us the gzeir shava according to Rebbe. What's the gzeir shava? Watch this. This time in the Brisa. Rebbe Omer, Gaber Nazir, Bimosam Eno Metame, Aval Metame Hu Lenigam Uleziva Sam. So Rebbe said this is very interesting. So watch this Gzeir Shava of Rebbe. So first of all here, we're just going to switch gears for just a moment. The pasuk says Bimosam. Pasuk in its entirety is V'al Kol Nafshus Meis Lo Yavo Lo Aviv Uli Imo Lo Yitama. No, sorry, wrong pasuk. Lula aviv uli imo lo achiv lo achoso lo yitama lahem. This is by Nazir. For his father, his mother, his brother, his sister should not become tamei bimosam in their death. Ki Nazir elokav arosho. Literally again, because the Nazir are literally the crown of God is upon his head. So we'll say, so the idea over here is this is by Nazir. So the Torah tells us bimosam. He's not allowed to become tummy to his relatives when they are dead. What do we darshan from this? Aval metamehu lenigam ulazivasam. But a Nazir is permitted to come in contact with his relatives who are tamei, either because of tsaras or because of zav. In other words, the prohibition for a Nazir is not to come in contact with death, with tumas meis, even of his own relatives. But he is permitted to come in contact with other forms of tumah from his relatives. What are examples of other forms of tumah from his relatives? Saras or zivus. So if his mother, father, son, daughter, sister, spouse are ultimately again either mitzoraim or zovim, the Nazir is permitted to come in contact with them. So the Gemara says, "Ve'eni ela b'Nazir." Now I only know that this is true in a Nazir. So we'll say the point that's being made over here is it's dafka tumas meis that a Nazir is not permitted to become exposed to. But other forms of tumah is if his relatives contract other forms of tumah, it does not require him to stay away from his relatives. Now I only know that this is true with Nazir. By Kohen Gadol minayin. What about Kohen Gadol? Where do I know this by Kohen Gadol? So the Gemara says as follows. Amrit, watch this. Lo yomar imo b'Kohen Gadol. The truth is, the Torah did not need to add the word imo by Kohen Gadol. Also remember again, just to point out, that's the previous pasuk that we were talking about over here. V'akol nafshos meis lo yavo, lo aviv uli imo lo yitama. So remember again, also getting back to that pasuk. What do I learn from that pasuk? Akol nafshos meis, what does that teach me? Kohen Gadol can't even become tamei for his own relatives. Lo aviv, what does that teach me? For his relatives he can't, but for a meis mitzvah he can. Imo is kind of out there. So the Gemara says the truth is Amrit lo yomar imo b'Kohen Gadol shein Talmud lomar. The truth is you don't really need the word imo by the mother, by Kohen Gadol. I don't really need it. Why? Shrei kavachomer, because it's a kavachomer. So what's the kavachomer? Uma in b'makom shekohen hedyot metame la'achiv me'aviv. So I will say in the case where a Kohen hedyot, now remember, regular Kohen is permitted to become tamei for his brother. Rabbi will say, but what type of brother? Only a paternal brother. Right? Only a brother from his father. So ma makom shekohen gadol shekohen hedyot metame la'achiv me'aviv ain't Kohen gadol metame la'aviv. So also now watch this. In a situation where a Kohen hedyot could become tamei for a paternal brother, a Kohen Gadol could not even become, in other words, let me say it differently. In a situation where a Kohen Hedyot could become tamei for his brother from the same father, in that case, a Kohen Gadol could not even become tamei for who? For the father himself. Forget about the brother. For the father himself, a Kohen Gadol can't become tamei. So makom she'ein Kohen Hedyot metame la'achiv me'imo. In a case, therefore, again, in a case where a Kohen Hedyot cannot become tamei for his brother from his mother, einodin she'ein Kohen Gadol metame li'imo. Certainly, again, a Kohen Gadol cannot become tamei even for what? Even for his mother himself. So the Gemara says, Im zachisa me'adin ma tamud lomar imo b'Kohen Gadol. So essentially what the Gemara is suggesting over here is, you could learn out the prohibition of a Kohen Gadol to become tummy to his mother from a Kal Chomer. So if that's the case, then I don't need the pasuk. And I will say the truth is it's a double kasha. Why is it a double kasha? Because the truth is you can learn out the Kohen Gadol's inability to become tummy to his mother from where? From the beginning of the pasuk. V'akol nafshos meis lo yavo. Okay, in addition to that, you also have a Kal Chomer. So I have a pasuk, I have a Kal Chomer, which then begs the question, why do I need the word uli imo by Kohen Gadol? To which the Gemara says, Ma tamalomar imo by Kohen Gadol, mufna, watch this, mufna lahakish veladon mimenu gezira shava. The truth is, the word imo is mufna. Mufna means it's open. So it could be used for an alternative drasha. Little or in this case, a gezira shava. The boss was the gezira shava. Ne'emar imo ben Nazir. It says imo by Nazir. The ne'emar imo by Kohen Gadol. And it says imo by Kohen Gadol. Ma imo ha'amar ben Nazir. B'mosam elam etame. Ava metame hu l'nigamo l'zivasam. So we'll say, just like imo by Nazir teaches me that what? It's only tumas meis that a Nazir cannot allow himself to be exposed to. But what? But if his relatives are tamei with other forms of tumah, like saras or like zivus, that the Nazir is permitted to be exposed to those relatives. Af ima ha'amar b'kohen gadol b'mosam eino metame ava metame l'nigam u'lezivasam. So to Rabbi say the Gzera Shav of imo teaches us that the same halacha applies by Kohen Gadol, namely that although a Kohen Gadol is not permitted to become exposed to tumas meis, even from the closest of relatives, he is permitted to be exposed to the other forms of tumah of his relatives, namely saras and zivos. So Rabbi say this is the Gzera Shava of Rabbi imo from Nazir to Kohen Gadol. So Rabbi say, if we go back to the pasuk of Kohen Gadol for just a moment, we now have the entire pasuk darshaned, right? L'val kol nafshos meis lo yavo. What does that teach me by Kohen Gadol? What does that teach me? That the Kohen Gadol is not permitted to become tamei, even for whom? Even for immediate relatives. Lo aviv, for relatives he can't become tamei, but who can he become tamei for? Meis mitzvah. And li'imo is a gzera shava to Nazir. That just like by Nazir, the drasha by Nazir, imo teaches us that is dafka tumas meis, that a Nazir cannot become exposed to. But he is allowed to expose himself, to become exposed to other forms of tumah of his relatives. For example, saras and zivus, so to a Kohen Gadol cannot become exposed to tumas meis, but can allow himself to become exposed to other forms of tumah from his relatives. And I will say, what this is saying is very important, because let's say the Kohen Gadol has an immediate relative who is a zav, or who is a metzora, and let's say that relative needs the Kohen Gadol for assistance. Salvocha l'maisa, there would be a heter technically. Again, there are other isurim involved as well, but there could be a heter technically to allow himself to be exposed to those other forms of tumah. Beautiful. So Rabbi will say we have the entire pasuk by Kohen Gadol properly accounted for. Incredible. So now says the Gemara, Ashkechad Kohen Gadol Nazir min Alan. So Rabbi says, so now what we've effectively done is we've shown that a Kohen Gadol has the ability to become tamei from meis mitzvah. But what about a Nazir? From where do I know that a Nazir has this license? The Sanya, the pasuk says, Kol yemei hiziro laHashem al nefesh meis lo yavo. Pasuk says, all the days that he is a Nazir to Hashem, he shall not come upon a nefesh meis. Right? Literally, again, nefesh meis, a dead person. So the Gemara, listen to this. Shomea ani afilu nefesh beima b'mashma. I have a maybe I will say maybe nefesh meis even includes what? Even includes dead animals. Kinyan shenemar make nefesh behema. Because above say the Torah does use the lashon of nefesh by an animal as well. Talmud lomar al nefesh meis lo yavo. Rabbi say this is fascinating. The pasuk doesn't just say he can't become tamei, rather it uses the lashon of yavo. Rabbi say, now remember again, lo yavo b'nefesh adam akasav medaber. We're davka talking about ultimately again the nefesh of a person. Now Rabbi say, how do you know ultimately again? How do you know that? See, here's what's interesting. What the Gemara is asking over here is, even though the word nefesh is used by animal, the phrase nefesh meis is only used by people. if you never find that phrase, nefesh meis, ultimately used by people. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel says, inu tzarech. So it says, Rabbi Shmuel says, there's a different drasha. Harihu omer lo yavo. Rabbi said, this is incredible. It says, b'nefesh meis lo yavo. And Rabbi say, now what does this mean? What does this mean? So what this means is as follows. Lo yavo. Remember again, the lashon of bia is also the lashon that is used by tumas ohel. Tumas ohel. So Rabbi said, now listen to this. It says, b'nefesh, so the lashon of the pasuk is, kol yimei ezyor la'Hashem, al nefesh meis lo yavo. So remember again, from this pasuk I know that a Nazir can't become tamei. The Havamim is, maybe it applies also to dead animals, because a dead animal is also called the nefesh. So first answer is, no. Nefesh meis, that phrase is only used by people. Rabbi Shmuel says there's another reason. Torah says, lo yavo, b'nefashos hametamos b'bia hakasav medaber. So Rabbi Shmuel says, lo yavo is lashon of bia, lashon of coming, which refers to tumas ohel. The only type of tumah that a Nazir is prohibited to become exposed to is the type of tumah which you could also contract via ohel. I will say, what's the only type of tumah you could contract via ohel? A person, a human being, not behema. Not behema. Beautiful. So the Gemara says, fine. So I'll say, so that's our kol nafshos meis lo yavo. Fine. What about the Gemara says, furthermore again the pasuk says for his mother and his father. So I'll say, so once again we're kind of left with this interesting idea, because same thing like we found by Kohen Gadol. Torah gives a general prohibition. Kol yimei ezyor la'Hashem al nefesh meis lo yavo. Fine, that's it. But Yerbo say, but the pasuk then goes on to say, la'aviv u'li'imo la'achiv u'la'achoso lo yitama. But then it says he also shouldn't become tamei for his father, for his mother, for his brother, for his sister. So why do they need to articulate all of these things? So watch this. So we'll say here we darshan. So la'aviv u'li'imo said means what? You can't become, a Nazir is not permitted even to become tamei for his immediate relatives. But who can he become tamei for? A meis mitzvah. A meis mitzvah. I said the Gemara says 1 second. Ad shelo yomar yeshli bedin. The truth is, even without saying this, I could extrapolate this, says the Gemara, through a kavachomer. What's the kavachomer? Uma kohen gadol shekedushas kedushas olam metami lemeis mitzvah. I will say, if a kohen gadol whose kedusha is eternal. I as well say, once you become the kohen gadol, in other words, what it's saying is, kohen gadol is a position for life. Now the truth is, we know that there are examples. We saw in yesterday's daf, right, of a kohen gadol who resigns, kohen gadol sha'avar. What it's saying is the nature of the kedusha of the kohen gadol is an ongoing, sustained kedusha. So when it comes to kedusha of a kohen gadol, which is ongoing and sustained, yet what? Metame lemeis mitzvah. Yet he can become tamei for a meis mitzvah. Nazir she'in kedushas kedushas olam. A nazir whose kedusha is not an eternal kedusha. Eino din shemetame lemeis mitzvah. We'll say, so again, so certainly if a kohen gadol who has eternal kedusha has the ability to become tamei for a meis mitzvah, a nazir who does not have eternal kedusha certainly should become tamei for a meis mitzvah. We'll say, first wide line. It's not a good kavachomer, I'll tell you why. Lo, imamre kohen gadol shekin mevi carbon al tumaso, tomar ben nazir shene, I'm sorry, imamre kohen gadol shekin eno mevi carbon al tumaso, tomar ben nazir shekin mevi carbon al tumaso. So we'll say, so 1 second. So the Gemara says, but we're saying it's not a good comparison. A kohen gadol, when he becomes tamei, does not have to bring a carbon for his tumah. A nazir, when he becomes tamei, does have to be bringing a carbon for his tumah, which I will say seems to indicate that what? That a nazir becoming tamei is more severe than a kohen gadol becoming tamei. So therefore, again, maybe lo yitama lemeis mitzvah. Maybe therefore maybe a nazir should not become tamei for a meis mitzvah. Tamei lomar lo aviv uliimo lo yitama aval metamei lemeis mitzvah. So therefore, I do need the pasuk. The pasuk comes to say lo aviv uliimo. It's dafka for his immediate relatives that the nazir does not become tamei. But who does he become tamei for? He becomes tamei for a meis mitzvah. So therefore, the way this is going right now is I have a general pasuk. Kol yemei heziro la'Hashem. That's the general restriction that a Nazir has to become tamei. Then the pasuk says, La'aviv u'limo, for his mother and father. From that we darshan, it's immediate relatives that he's not permitted to become tamei for. But who can he become tamei for? Meis mitzvah. Meis mitzvah. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. So the Rosh say, now the Gemara throws out an interesting idea. Well, maybe the pasuk is coming to say like this. Maybe the Nazir is only not permitted to become tamei for his mother and father, but he can become tamei for other mason. To which the Gemara says that doesn't make sense. Amrit kavachomer, I can say kavachomer, it's kavachomer. Uma kohen hedyot shemet tamei lekrovav enu metamei l'shar mason. We'll say a regular kohen who what is allowed to become tamei for his immediate relatives, yet what is not permitted to become tamei for what we'll call for rechokim, for non-relatives. Nazir shemet tamei lekrovav. So krovin, a Nazir is not permitted to become tamei for his immediate relatives. Eino din shaloi tamei l'shar mason, certainly cannot become tamei for other mason. Amud beis ha ma tamud lomar la'aviv u'li'imo. Shabbos says the Gemara. So what are we to extrapolate from the phrase la'aviv u'li'imo? Dafka la'aviv u'li'imo hu d'lo metamei aval metamei hu l'meis mitzvah. So we'll say once again we come full circle back to the same drasha. Avi Vivianne teaches me that a Nazir is not permitted to become tamei for immediate relatives, but he is permitted to become tamei for a meis mitzvah. And by the way, when we say, I just want to point out, when we say permitted to become tamei for a meis mitzvah, what does that ultimately mean? Obligated, because the whole chap of a meis mitzvah is there is no one else. So the Gemara goes weiter. Okay, says the Gemara. Ad Sigmar fine. We'll say Memches Malays 48b, 3 lines down. Ad Shelo Yomar Yeshli Bedin. So we'll say Ad Shelo Yomar Yeshli Bedin. So the Gemara says even before we get into any Kalachom, let's talk about the following. Nemar, listen to this. Nemru Klolos Bekoin Gadol, Benemru Klolos Benazir. Now we'll say, now listen to this. Both by Nazir and by Kohen Gadol, the Torah makes a general statement. For example, ultimately again by Kohen Gadol, the pasuk says, "Lenefesh lo yitama," and by Nazir it says, "Al nefesh meis lo yavo." So we'll say, so that's what it means when it says klalos. The Torah makes a general statement prohibiting both the Nazir and the Kohen Gadol from becoming tamei meis. Okay, general statement. So watch this. Ma klalos amuros be Kohen Gadol. Just like the general statement by Kohen Gadol, lo aviv einu metamei aval metamei l'meis mitzvah. So we'll say we know that the general statement by the Kohen Gadol teaches me. By Kohen Gadol, it means literally he cannot become tamei to anyone, right? When the pasuk says lenefesh lo yitama, by the Kohen Gadol, we'll say who does that include? Everyone. So aval metamei l'meis mitzvah, but a Kohen Gadol can become tamei for a meis mitzvah. Af klalos ha'amuros benazir. So Rabbi said the general statement by Nazir, al nefesh meis lo yavo. What does that come to include? La'aviv eino metamei. It comes to include even relatives he can't become tamei for. Aval metamei l'meis mitzvah. But he should be able to become tamei for a meis mitzvah. So we'll say, so now this is a different type, almost like of a gzir shava, kal v'chomer, right? It says a general statement by Kohen Gadol, and that general statement includes all relatives, but excludes meis mitzvah. So too, there's a general statement by Nazir. It should include all relatives, but what? Exclude meis mitzvah. Okay, lechal derech zu. Our Rabbi said the truth is you can go in a different direction. What's a different direction? Watch this. Ne'emar klalos bekoin hedyot. So we'll say, there's also a general statement of lenefesh lo yitama by regular kohen. Ne'emar klalos benazir. And ultimately, again, there's a general statement by Nazir. Va'al nefesh meis lo yavo. Now watch this. This is incredible. Ma klalos ha'amuros bekoin hedyot metamei la'aviv af klalos ha'amuros benazir metamei la'aviv. Wow. We'll say, listen to this. In other words, there's a general statement by Kohen Hedyot of Tumah, and there's a general statement by Nazir. Maybe we should say that just like the general statement by Kohen Hedyot says that Kohen Hedyot can't become tamei for rechokim, but he can become tamei for krovim, so to a Nazir cannot become tamei for rechokim, but can become tamei for krovim. Talmud lomar Lo aviv ule imo lo yitama. Halameis mitzvah metame. So we'll say, to which the Gemara says, no. But by Nazir, the Torah goes out of its way to say what? Lo aviv ule imo. Right? It Dafka says for his mother and his father. So what do you see from here? If a Nazir is enjoined, a Nazir is prohibited to become tamei to his parents or to his immediate relatives. But for a mitzvah, ultimately again, he is permitted to become tamei. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. Aviv ule imo, I need that for a different drasha. Hami baile lomar shemetame la'aviv. So shemetame la'aviv. I will say, so remember again, no. I need, in other words, aviv and imo by Nazir don't teach him a mitzvah, will say. So aviv and imo by Nazir, or at least aviv by Nazir, teaches me that a Nazir cannot become tamei for his immediate relatives. Ela la'aviv, rather we'll also watch this. Ela la'aviv lomar shemetame la'aviv. To which the Gemara says, listen to this. So Aviv teaches me that the Nazir cannot become tamei for his father, right? So I will say, so again, I have a general statement that a Nazir cannot become tamei. That's what I have, right? Then, remember the Torah goes into specific relatives. Aviv teaches me that for immediate relatives, a Nazir can become tamei, but who can he become tamei for, right? Meis mitzvah. Watch this. La'achiv eino metamei. I'm sorry, take that back. La'aviv teaches me that what? He can't become tamei for immediate relatives. That's what it teaches me. La'achiv, what does la'achiv teaches me? Eino metamei, halameis mitzvah metamei. Right? So we'll say, achiv, so watch this, right? Because lashon of the pasuk was, la'aviv u'li'imo, la'achiv u'la'achoso. So aviv teaches us that a Nazir cannot become tamei even for immediate relatives. Achiv, right? Achiv teaches me that for immediate relatives he can't become tamei, but what? For a meis mitzvah he can. What about imo? Uli imo l'gzera shava de Rebbe. I will say ultimately again, imo is the gzera shava of Rebbe. What was the gzera shava of Rebbe? That it's only tumas meis that a Nazir is not permitted to become exposed to through his relatives, but he is permitted to come in contact with them if they are what? If they have other forms of tumah. i.e. saras or zivos. So I will say, so now, let's just pause here for just a moment because it's absolutely incredible. So I will say, so now, watch what we have. We now have almost the entire pasuk by Nazir. Right? So remember again, I have the general statement, Kol Yemei Ziro LaHashem Al Nefesh Meis Lo Yavo, that teaches me that Nazir is not permitted to come in contact with the dead. Fine, that's number one. Now I both say I have a follow-up pasuk. What's the follow-up pasuk? La'aviv uli imo, la'achiv ula'achos lo yitama. Aviv teaches me that what? He can't come in contact with the dead, even immediate relatives. Achiv comes to teach it's only immediate relatives that he can't come in contact with. But who can he come in contact with? Meis mitzvah. Imo, we use for the gezerah shav of Rebbe. That when we talk about it's prohibited to become in contact with tamei relatives, that's only tumas meis, does not preclude him from coming in contact with those relatives. If what? If it's other forms of tumah. What do I do? We'll say one missing. Who's missing? Achoso. Watch this. This is incredible. Ula achoso. So we'll say, what do I do with achoso? Look at the sanya. Listen to this. The sanya. Lachoso matamlar. We'll say, what do I learn from achoso? Bless you. It's incredible. Hare shahalach lishchot es pischo, v'lamo lespino. So we'll say, I just want to point out over here, the Rush points out, this is a regular guy. The Rush says, Hare shahayahole Israel ve'ino Nazir. This is talking about a regular guy. He is not a Nazir. He is not a Kohen Hedyot. He's not a Kohen Gadol. He's just a guy. And what's happening? We'll say, this guy is going on his way to shech his korban Pesach, v'lamo laspino, or to circumcise his son. V'shama shemeis lo meis. And we'll say, he heard that one of his relatives died, so yachol yitame. You might have thought that he should go to the Levi and become tamei. So the Gemara says, Amrit lo yitama. The pasuk says he should not become tamei. So we'll say, so now let's just analyze what's happening over here. So we'll say, so if you can imagine, there's a guy. He's on his way to do the korban Pesach, right? And what is he here? That by the way, or for that matter, again, give his son a bris. And we'll say, so then what happens? He hears that his sister died. One of his relatives died. And we'll say, we are presupposing that this is a case where there is someone else who is able to take care of the burial. So it's right? Because if there's no one else to take care of the burial, then what is that? In other words, You could also have a relative who's a mitzvah, right? Technically speaking. So I will say, so now we'll call him Ruvain. Ruvain's on his way to do his Korban Pesach. He hears that his sister passed away, or any relative for that matter. So he has a choice. What's his choice? His choice is go to the Levaya. Well, see, if he goes to the Levaya, what's the halacha? Can't do Korban Pesach. Right? Why can't do Korban Pesach? Because he can be tameh. Or the situation may be that he may not be able to give his son a bris, ultimately again because of tumah considerations as well. So I will say, what the Gemara is saying is like this. Ulachoso means sometimes. Yachol yitama, you might have thought your obligation is to go back and go to the Levaya. Amrit lo yitama. I will say there are certain times, now I want to point out over here, so but the common denominator between Bris Milah and Korban Pesach is they both carry with them penalties of kares, right, for non-performance. So I will say you might have thought that you should go to the Levaya instead of doing Korban Pesach. Therefore the Paz says, lo yitama, no, go do Korban Pesach, and ultimately, again, go give Bris Milah. So it says the Gemara. Now, we're going to clarify this in just a moment. So the Gemara says, Yachol lo yitama l'meis mitzvah. You might have thought this would even apply to a meis mitzvah. Tamalom lachoso. So therefore, the pasuk lachoso de'ina metame ha mitame. So the Gemara says de'ina metame ha l'meis mitzvah mitame. But for a meis mitzvah, ultimately, again, I will say one would be mitame themselves. So I will say this is a really dramatic drasha. So I will say I just want to point out what the Gemara is using this drasha of lachoso. Lachoso is not unique to the Nazir and not unique to the Kohen, right? Lachoso, the drasha is being made over here is for a regular guy. I will say who has to make a shikul, who has to do a cost-benefit analysis. Two opportunities in front of me right now, right in front of this guy, Ruvain. His sister died, a relative died, so he can go to the Levaya, become Tameh, now, right? That's obviously one option. Or continue on and do Korban Pesach, or Bris Milah for his son. Achoso teaches me he should continue on, do Korban Pesach, do Bris Milah, and not lose out on those opportunities because of Tumah. Never say, once again, this presupposes that what? That there are other people to take care of the mace. Never say, you might have thought that the same shikol, the same cost-benefit analysis applies to a mace mitzvah. Kamash Shmuel, no. Stafka lachoso. Lachoso is an example of someone who has someone else to take care of their burial needs. But for a mace mitzvah, you always drop everything, including bris milah, including Korban Pesach, and take care of the needs of the mace. They will say there is a tremendous musar haskell in this particular idea, this lachoso. Shayaholech lishchot es pischo v'shama shemes lo meis. They will say it's an incredible paradigm for life. You see, people like to think in life you could have your cake and eat it too. It's false. It's false. Life is filled with decisions. And by definition, whenever you choose A, you cannot have B. It's just like, again, you eat fleischiks for dinner, you're not having ice cream for dessert. It's just the way that life works. So there are people who will say, there are people who like to always keep themselves parav, right? Like literally parav, right? Because you never know, like what's going to happen. There's fleischiks, milchiks. I will say, you know what happens with parav people? Right? Parav people lead parav lives. First of all, they're never full, they're never satiated, right? Because they're always trying to figure out, what am I going to eat next? And they never really move forward in life. I was saying in life, you have to make decisions. I understand when you make decisions, you are going to give something up. That's the reality. To live a life and think that you're going to have your cake and eat it too, it's delusional. Delusional. You're going to choose Korban Pesach, you're going to lose out on the Levaya. You're going to take Meis Mitzvah, you're going to lose out on Korban Pesach. Such is the nature of life, which I both say is what reminds us of how we have to be so careful in our processes for decision making. Because whenever you choose A, you are sacrificing B. So therefore, again, I will say, Gemara is sensitizing us. Be careful with what you choose. Be careful with what you choose, because every decision, by definition, comes with a sacrifice. So be careful what you're taking, and be careful what you're giving up. Such an incredible Kahn Yisrael. So let's go weiter. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva says, Nafshos elu harachokim. Right? So Rabbi Akiva says, Nafshos, who are Nafshos? that refers ultimately, again, I will say, to people who are unrelated. So the Gemara says, Meis, Elu HaKrovim. That refers to people who are related. Right? So Rabbi Akiva is dashing the pasuk a little bit differently. Right? The pasuk of Akan, Akol Nafshos Meis, Akol Naf, Kol Yemei is 0, La Hashem Al Nefesh Meis Lo Yavo. So we'll say by the Nazir. So Rabbi Akiva is dashing a little bit differently. Rabbi Akiva says, Nafshos, that refers ultimately again to unrelated people. Meis refers to even related people. La Avi Vivianne Imo, I by Nazir when it says father and mother, in the Matame. Tafka for his father and mother doesn't become Tameh. Aval Matame Hula Meis Mitzvah. But he does become Tameh ultimately again for a Meis Mitzvah. La Achiv, both say what does Achiv mean? Shem Haya Kohen Gadol V'hu Nazir. Now both say this is very interesting. Rabbi Akiva has a different drush over here. Rabbi Akiva says if he was a Kohen Gadol and he was a Nazir. So we'll say, now watch this. Now this guy has got both items going on over here, right? He is both a Kohen Gadol as well as a Nazir. Shem Haya Kohen Gadol v'Nazir. Actually, we'll say what we're gonna. Okay, fine. Shem Haya Kohen Gadol v'Nazir. If he was both a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir, la'achiv eino metame, aval metame hula meis mitzvah. Ultimately, again, he does not become tamei for his brother, but he does become tamei for a meis mitzvah. So we'll say. The Chiddush of Rabbi Akiva is that even what? Even in the case of a Kohen Gadol who's a Nazir. Right? So say, by the way, we're going to talk about that case because it's actually an interesting case because one of the halachos of a Kahuna Gedola, Kohen Gadol, is he has to get his hair cut on a very frequent basis. We're going to talk about this. So how exactly you would have a case of a Kohen Gadol Nazir we'll talk about, but let's just take it for granted that could happen. So Rabbi Akiva is coming along and saying, even this guy Kohen Gadol Nazir who has shtei kedushos, ultimately again, two levels of sanctity. Ultimately again, he also could become tamei for a meis mitzvah. Ulachoso. So I will say, what does Rabbi Akiva do? Ulachoso. Kidisanyo harei shahai ayaholich lishchot es pischa v'lamal espino. So we'll say Rabbi Akiva will use lachoso for the same drasha we had before. I Rabbi Akiva. Gzeir Shava de Rebbe Minale. I will say, where does Rabbi Akiva learn out the Gzeir Shava of Rebbe? I will say, remember again, what's the Gzeir Shava of Rebbe? Imo. That's the Gzeir Shava that teaches us that a Kohen Gadol as well as a Nazir are only prohibited from going ahead and exposing them, becoming exposed to Tumas Meis from relatives, but not other forms of Tumah. So where does he know that from? To which the Gemara says, Amar l'chakivan de Amar Mar. Im haya kohen gadol v'nazir le'echad v'nazir la'achid eno matame aval matame hu lemeis mitzvah. So we'll say, actually, you know what? We'll stop over here for today. Let's stop over here with this last piece. So we'll say, I just want to point out to you, just because I want to sum it up, and then we'll do a little shara bitachon. So we'll say, I just want to show you, sometimes you have these Gemaras, and the beauty of these Gemaras, which we'll say is the exact interplay. We'll say, what's the goal of Torah Shabbat Peh? What's the goal of Torah Shabbat Peh? The goal of Torah Shabbat Peh is to allow you to go ahead and understand Torah Shebichsav. And I will say, every once in a while, this happens in such a beautiful way. So now I will say, watch what we have. We now have two perfect drashas of psukim, right? So I will say, by the Kohen Gadol, the Torah says, V'akol nafshos meis lo yavo. So I will say, that's the klalos. That's the general statement. La'aviv uli imo lo yitama. So we'll say, so ultimately, again, what do I learn from Aviv? Aviv teaches me that it's dafka what? Dafka relatives to Kohen Gadol cannot become tamei for, but what? A meis mitzvah he can. And imo teaches me ultimately the gzeir shava of Rebbe, that it's only tumas meis that he can't allow himself to be exposed to, but if his relatives have other forms of tumah, he could allow himself to be exposed to that. That's Kohen Gadol. What about by Nazir? I will say, so by Nazir, kol yimei zero la Hashem al nefesh meis lo yavo. That's the klalos, the general statement. Then la aviv. So I'll say, what does la aviv teach me? For immediate relatives, he cannot become tamei. I'm going to go out of order like the Gemara did. Achiv teaches me that what? That even that for immediate relatives, he can't become tamei, but what? For meis mitzvah, he can. Imo uses the gzeir shava of Rebbe, and achoso teaches me the halacha that's not unique to Nazir Kohen Gadol. What does achoso teach me? That if a guy is on his way to do Karban Pesach or to give a bris milah to his son, and he heard that his relative passed away, you would have thought that he should go to the Levi and become tamei. Kamashmal on what? Kamashmal, no. Right? Cost-benefit analysis, do the Karban Pesach, go ahead and do the Bris Milah, but that's only assuming what? There's someone else to bury. If it's a Meis Mitzvah, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, you have to become Tamir Alayis of this. So therefore I will say, this is all beautiful, all tidied up, all buttoned up. One last remaining piece, which is where Rabbi Akiva learns out the Gzera Shava of Rebbe from. So we'll say, Emir Hashem, that's the last piece. We'll Emir Hashem see in tomorrow's daf. We'll say, we'll stop over with the daf. Let's just do a little bit of Shara B'tachon. A little bit, ultimately again, of Musar. Chevra.